buckle up because we got to face the fact that this current crop of Gilead lads running the country are working hard to turn us into a fleshlight that can breed and bake.
And on this episode, we look at how their evil plan is going and what shenanigans they've announced just this week to try to make it happen.
Hint, we are ever closer to having a vaginal ring camera requirement for anyone currently hosting a uterus. That's me, that's you.
This is a sharp promo. So thank God we've got some bright lights in the darkness. I mean, we have Oscar-nominated people on the show today, so
sure do.
Shut the fuck up. From the documentary The Devil is Busy, Kwajelyn Jackson and Tracii Wesley from the Feminist Center for Liberation in Atlanta, Georgia, they're here to talk about the film and navigating abortion care in a state with a crappy-ass abortion ban.
And we have author and activist Kate Schatz, and she shows up to chat about her new novel, Where the Girls Were, which is a chilling tale about maternity homes and how quickly we're just sliding back to the bad place.
But somehow we're going to make it make sense and make it funny. Wish us luck.
Woo, fingers crossed.
All right. Oh, my God. Welcome to the Feminist Buzzkills podcast. Look, I'm saying we're the show so optimistic, we're still planning to have a show in 2 weeks. Boom.
You think the world is going to be intact in 2 weeks? So optimistic, Liz. I'm excited.
I don't know if I do or not, but I'm saying I do so that others can join me and at least be fun for the next 2 weeks. If you want to know who I am, I'm Liz Winstead, and I am joined by my illustrious co-host, Moji Alabodale.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Liz. Oh, listen, I'm going to try to take in your optimism because this week's countdown to the wiping out of a whole civilization thing still kind of has me shook, actually.
So I was just watching that countdown on Tuesday. I'm not going to lie. I ordered about 17,000 calories worth of like food from like Grubhub. I got like this sausage pasta with like, I think I added just extra cream sauce. It didn't even have it on there just so I could gorge. And I got cake, and then I got like this massive Caesar salad, and I ate the whole fucking thing. But my optimism said, Liz, just in case we're not annihilated tonight, take a cheat day on Noom. So that's what I did. I'm a mess, but I didn't know what else to do.
I didn't know what to do either. You know, I'm parenting, and this is spring break for my kids. So I kind of got caught up in that. And then around 6 o'clock, I looked up and I was like, oh my God, what's happening in the world? What's going on? And I like started frantically Googling like Iran, war, annihilation, civilization. It was like, oh, there was a ceasefire? Oh, cool. Okay, well, I guess I ordered all that toilet paper for nothing.
You know what? Here's the deal. I've just decided there's no such thing as a ceasefire. Basically, what a ceasefire is for me is men just taking the time from blowing up civilization because they need to troll women on the internet. So it's just really a break in the bombing action so that they can make all of us feel unsafe online.
Yeah, just a comfortable redirection. Otherwise, how would we get our daily dose of hate on the internet, Liz?
I don't know. You have to call it a ceasefire. You have to call a ceasefire just so men can be extra garbage. And we'll get to more of that in a minute. But we have a lot of show to get to before we get it all started. Look, I'm just going to be honest. We Googled all of your names.
Yeah.
All of you. We were trolling you. And now we need to say, why aren't all of you already a Patreon member?
We actually called a staff meeting about this. And I just want to say, if you aren't already a member, this is your opportunity to move off of our not so great list and sign up.
What are we, Bad Santa?
I think we are. Yes. Otherwise, you get podcast coal.
Yes, you'll get podcast coal.
No, but if you join, not only will you get actually a birthday shout out, which is great, you'll also support great content, and you will support all the work we do here at Abortion Access Front.
That's right. So if you aren't already a patron, sign up now. You'll get cool merch, good experiences, and all the pledges don't not only support just the pod, but all of our work at Abortion Access Front. So it's easy. Pledge at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills and give us your cash so we can give you the info.
All right. So Liz, there's a lot we want to talk about. So let's get to some headlines in our steaming dump of whatever has happened in the abobosphere this week.
That's right. Hit it, Moji.
Trump is considering bringing back this old chestnut from before, which is an abortion ban for undocumented minors.
You know, this is such a mess because not only do they want to bring back this ban that punishes undocumented minors. They have also currently created this basically undocumented pregnant teen gulag in Texas that they're shoving all of these undocumented pregnant people into, and they don't have any medical services and they don't have any specialists, which I should have realized, but I didn't because I was a pregnant teen who had an abortion, that all teen pregnancies are at-risk pregnancies because of the nature of your body developing. And they have no experts even, no doctors, no experts, no nothing.
No health care at all. And
Fucking awful.
it is. And like, we can be honest, like all pregnancies are kind of at risk, but yeah, younger ones are even more at risk.
It's just so brutal.
It's so dark. And you're like, why are they doing this? And I truly believe they're doing this because these little pedophiles want to fuck young girls. And because they can't, because they don't want to get the therapy they need, they choose to punish and hurt teenagers rather than deal with their sick compulsions.
I mean, I think that's right. I mean, they do it to women, they do it to Black folks, they do it to everybody. And this is just the latest way to like take out your weird, awful rapiness on the victims that you want to assault. It's just a mess. You know, it's not all men, I know, but it's always men.
Always, always, always. In the brighter side of the line, in Wisconsin, the progressive candidate, Chris Taylor, just won the open seat for the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. And this, Liz, this creates a 5-2 liberal majority in Wisconsin, of all places. What?
It is so crazy. I can think back to like, I don't know, 10 years ago when Scott Walker turned Wisconsin into like a ghoul farm.
Yes.
She won by 20 points.
Which is major.
She's major. I met her once. She is awesome. And she's pro-choice, pro-voter protection, pro-LGBTQ rights, and anti-gerrymandering. She's the best.
So she's Antifa.
Obvi.
One of us. One of us. One of us. One of us.
It's totally true. Oh my God. I love that movie so much. Freaks. Put it in the bio, Remy. We got to tell people to watch Freaks because it is like, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. And some more good news out of the Midwest. We're going to close this segment out with, in Illinois, they're proposing an expansion of abortion access and coverage outside of just Medicare and private insurance plans. It's pretty awesome.
It is really super awesome. And some of the things they're proposing, wait, listen to it. It's expanding funding to the underinsured or people who don't have insurance. It's using Affordable Care Act funds to create grants for people. And it's expanding where people can access the health care that they deserve.
And I'm really excited about the expansion, but like, I want real change to include the word free abortions, right? Or go radical, like do something like replace the penny with abortion pills.
Oh, so you get it as change when you go and you buy your cucumbers.
100%.
Well, while we're dreaming big, why don't we just make it a yummy topping selection at Chipotle?
Well, I think, yes. Okay.
You know?
I love that. I love that. You know, you could just have guacamole, some, sauteed onions, some miso. Makes sense to me.
I'm excited about it.
I love it. Go Illinois. Now take our advice and run with it. Those are some of your headlines. Now we're going to get to some of the more ragey stories from the week.
So every single week, we dive through the bowels of the internet and we do what we like to refer to as a misogynistic colonoscopy. And we find the worst of the worst takes that politicians, preachers, and men in the wild have said about abortion, sex, or gender.
And this week's mic drop from Pastor Joel Webbin is not only horrifying, it's also timely in the wake of poor Pam Bondi losing her job last week. Listen up.
When you say, well, I don't think that, it's like, well, I disagree with Pam Bondi because I think she's hiding the Epstein files. And I'd be like, yeah, but also I don't like Pam Bondi because she's a woman. And she shouldn't be in public, not in politics. You know, like the meme is like, you and I are not the same. You don't like it for this reason. I don't like, it's like, oh, I don't like Pam Bondi because of her positions. I'm like, I don't like Pam Bondi because she needs to be at home.
Okay, wow, Joel Webbin, that's some real sliding your wife meals on a tray through a slot in a crawl space vibe.
No, seriously, Liz, like, has anyone seen Mrs. Webbin in the wild? Anyone?
I feel like, no.
It feels like we should just start a podcast, just a true crime podcast to liberate her from wherever he stores her. Could be anywhere.
Could be anywhere. You know what? I say yes. And I think then we beard up John Krasinski for the Lifetime movie.
Trapped in the closet. The Nancy Webben story, or whatever the fuck her name is.
Nancy's trapped in the closet. It feels like such a mess. Did we just create a new franchise for John Krasinski? I think we did.
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did.
Ugh.
This guy is not an anomaly too, right? Like you'd hope that this was just like a one-off and one crazy person screaming into the void. He's actually a whole ass political movement that is bright and shining here in the year of our Lord 2026.
Men removing women from any and all positions of power and removing the decades of advancements we made, just to win equality. It's just all being eroded away by these men. And it's like, I want to say it's starting with one thing, but it's like a simultaneous hit job on all of the progress we made, like the 19th Amendment, for example.
Oh, you mean the right to vote? Did you actually, I wondered, did you see the article this week in the Times about this one family, one vote movement?
Okay, I did see it, and I'm super glad the Times finally jumped on it because we've been screaming about this forever because it's a big tenet of the anti-abortion movement, the subjugation and the just keeping women as breeders and shit like that. And, one family, one vote, it sort of establishes that the husband is the head of the household and the family vote is basically we've abdicated our vote to our husband because he knows best, right? That's basically it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is.
J.D. Vance has spoken on this, Mike Johnson, Mark Quain, state legislators, Hegseth. It is a movement. And so basically, it's not just some weird anomaly that like the Times thought to write about because a couple of weirdo Christian men want to, have biblical roles. 3 people who are in line to be president believe this is the way we should go.
What's wild about the article also is they focus on the women who think this, though. It's not about the men. It's about the women who are like, oh, no, this allows me to be in my femininity when I allow my husband to vote for the family. I'm too dumb to imagine voting.
Look, wear a teddy to the polls. You're bringing your femininity to vote. What does that even mean?
Honestly, Liz, I'm fine if you're like, yes, I want to give my vote to my husband. The problem is it's a movement where they want to give my vote to my husband that doesn't exist as well.
Or your vote to somebody else's husband. Fuck that shit. That's what I want. That's the thing that was also weird. It was such a heteronormative thing. Like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I have a male dog. Does the male dog vote for me because that's the male of my household?
Absolutely. He doesn't have a uterus. Voting for him? Yes.
Oh my God. Well, he would make better choices than half of these fucking women in this article. God, it was so maddening. And then you have the SAVE Act, right? So there's that. Then you have the SAVE Act, which I'm sure you've read about the SAVE Act, where if you haven't, they're considering right now, they haven't put it to a final vote, a bill that in order to register to vote, you have to have the same name on your birth certificate that matches your current name, which is poll tax because you would have to pay to get any documentation if you are married and change your name, if you are trans and are living your truth right now with a different name, whatever reason you would have to change your name. And here's the thing that's fucked up about it is a marriage certificate doesn't count as enough documentation to show if you changed your name. You have to have a passport or you have to get your original birth certificate and it has to match. And all that shit costs money. That's against the Constitution.
Even when it was coming up for a vote that failed, it's still in the table, but when it came up for a vote and Democrats were like, you know what, let's just have a provision that married women will be excluded from this. Republicans said, no, we need to keep that part. That's the important part.
No, here's what they should just do. Why don't they just take it the whole way, right? Why don't they just decide in order for a woman to vote, they'll tie a brick to your ankle and throw you in the river. And then if you come up and you can breathe, you can vote. They can call it the floater voter bill.
So then only witches can vote. Great.
Yes. No, people who aren't witches. If you're a witch, you'll sink.
Oh, that's right. The witches sink. Right. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I only know witches. So.
And we frame it in this way because I think historically to get to how this ties into abortion and birth control and stuff is what they're trying to do around our access to birth control and abortion and why those things matter to us being members of society that are decision makers in society.
Yeah, being allowed to control your reproduction is literally what allows you to have a job, live a life, fuck who you want, right? Like being in charge of that. And there are all these Supreme Court cases that established this right for us. We had Griswold, which established the right for married people to have birth control. We had Eisenstadt, which established the right for unmarried people to have birth control. And SCOTUS said,
They said exactly what we were just talking about. Women not being able to have access to birth control takes away their human rights and their civil rights to achieve whatever they want that's offered to them under the Constitution, right?
but this Supreme Court, when they repealed Roe, actually said we should rethink that.
That's exactly right. And that was such a fucking 5-alarm fire because they were like, oh, it's not actually written in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution about birth control or about gay marriage, about interracial marriage, about anything. So basically, they were trying to say any protection for a person that's not written into the Constitution is not a right and can be relitigated, which is fucking scary.
Yeah.
And then this week, Trump's all excited about any of that, right? Because this week, Trump announced that 2027, they're going to remove contraception from Title 10.
And Title 10 was established just to give the right of contraception. That's its whole point. It was established so that low-income people could understand contraception, their reproductive rights, their reproductive options, and then access them.
That's exactly right. If you're not familiar with Title 10, it's pretty simple. It provides free and subsidized contraception, STI testing, cancer screenings, and other non-abortion sexual health services for low-income people.
But the new guidance says instead of focusing on contraception, they actually are going to remove that and they're going to focus on fertility awareness methods. And that's essentially tracking when you think you can get pregnant and then making your choices around that because they want to be sure that you're pregnant. I don't know if anyone else knows about the rhythm method, but I have several friends who got pregnant on that.
Yeah, and it's just this whole crazy MAHA set of guidelines. And they said that the key goal of the program is to strengthen family formation and assist people to have healthy pregnancies and achieve healthy pregnancies. But it's not the government's job to dictate everyone has a family formation and what that family formation looks like. It should be that, like we talk about all the time with reproductive justice, it should be caring for any kind of family that you want to create or pregnancy outcome you want to have so that people are thriving, not forcing people to have one kind. I mean, at one point, Moji, and I'm so pissed, they were like, we want to ensure that federal resources aren't used to facilitate illegal immigration, and they want to protect parental rights so that folks can have a religious upbringing for their kids. What does that have to do with your sexual health? What?
I mean, remember the guy in Texas who managed to get reproductive rights stripped from teenagers in Texas because he didn't want his daughter to know about her options.
That's exactly right. And the thing that's so maddening about this is that career people at the Department of Health and Human Services have come forward to say this whole fucking mishigas was crafted by Trump appointees without any input of people who have been there forever doing studies and monitoring the benefits of comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care. It is maddening. And then Hegseth, Jesus Christ, that guy, he's been stripping away at our pathway to autonomy forever. It's wild. He wants to get rid of women in the military. He said that forever. He's stripped away programs that help women. He's stripped away sexual assault advocacy. He's stripped away, we know, access to abortion care when people are stationed in places that if they get pregnant, they can't access the care they need. He's taken away any kind of abortion access in the insurance policies of the federal workers. And he has stopped promoting women. But now there's a bunch of bills that are being put forward to protect birth control, which I'm sure he does not want to include birth control. And then there's this sticky menopause situation that's happening where, leadership within the VA are very positive around making sure that veterans are getting menopause treatment, menopause care. And my guess he's going to cut all of that off because, as we talked about on this podcast last. And as you just said, as a newly evangelized person about who is like on HRT, it helps the quality of life. So it's like Pete Hegseth wants to dig around and destroy the quality of life of people who have served our country. And Moji, do you know what the percentages of women in the military?
I actually don't.
It's 20%. I was surprised by that. I thought it'd be like 10. 20% of our military is women. And he looks at it as DEI, right? Oh, if I have to cater to women, then it's a policy we have to fail, healthcare or otherwise.
Whereas we can remove women from the promotion list, but we can't cater to them.
Well, and I'm just wondering if, not all women have uteruses and not all men have penises, and some women have penises. And we all know how like gender is a fluid thing. But I'm guessing that because Pete Hegseth is a cis man with a penis, that Viagra is readily available, especially when you have liquor dick like that guy does. He's got to be popping that shit all the time.
They're never going to stop the flow of Viagra. Men will have that subsidized until the cows come home.
No, it's true. And so here's the deal. Abortion bans, contraception bans, voting restrictions. Again, we can't say it enough. It's all an intersection. And it's not about saving babies. And it's not about anything other than not only just controlling us, but reevaluating our humanity. And so I'm really glad that we kind of could barf out this framing of what it really means. Every time they chip away at something, there's 900 other things they've chipped away at to reduce our world, to make sure we are on this earth to do their bidding.
To just push us back into the house.
True.
And make us little breeding machines.
Yep.
That's all they want from us. Well,
moving on to our guests.
Let's please.
Okay.
Because this thirst for punishing patients seeking abortion is on the rise everywhere. And it seems like every week someone has been turned in by a partner, turned in by hospital staff, or some prosecution thirsty lawyer who's out to punish as many women as possible get on board with some bullshit.
No kidding. And Georgia has been fucking extra, as in the past few years, we have seen and we have watched heartbreaking stories of women dying and being criminalized because Georgia's 6-week abortion ban, and let's be honest, every 6-week abortion ban has made providing abortion care and even pregnancy care writ large oftentimes a criminalized offense.
It sure do. And with the recent case of Alexia Moore, a Georgia woman who's been charged with murder for allegedly using and possessing abortion pills, it's more of the same harmful bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the latest thing. And so I'm very glad that our next guests are our guests this week, because they're going to tell us how they have been navigating abortion care in Georgia under these conditions. And they're not only amazing abortion providers, they are the subjects of an incredible Oscar-nominated documentary short called The Devil is Busy. And they should have won. 2026 did not serve them well, but they were served up an Oscar nomination, for which I am thoroughly grateful.
Indeed. So please welcome the clinic's executive director, Kwajelyn Jackson, and director of security, Tracii Wesley. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for joining us.
We are super excited to talk to you, not only about the film, but just getting people to get to know Feminist. And also, it's the 50th anniversary.
Woohoo!
That is unbelievable. So I guess before we get to the film, I want to just get a little bit of conversation going with you, Kwajelyn, and you, Tracii, just about what Feminist does, the roles y'all play there, and all of that kind of stuff. So what I want to kick off first with, Kwajelyn, this is the 50-year anniversary. You took over in 2018 as the ED. So let's talk about what you've done, right, in this time, and how you've transformed what Feminist is and what your plans are. Can I say for the next 50? I don't want to put you in that spot.
Yeah,
Okay, let's do it. Then let's do that. Let's be very aspirational.
absolutely. I'm really happy to be here with you all again. I love coming on Feminist Buzzkills. Yeah, Feminist Center was founded in 1976 by two women in their 20s who thought that reproductive health care could be better and could be centered on the patients. And we're really grateful that we've been able to continue that legacy all this time. My time in leadership at Feminist has been a lot. I have been a part of leading the organization through, a global pandemic and the fall of Roe, not to
Just
brag.
a couple things.
Minor blips.
So it has certainly been a challenging time to endure all of those things, plus, the state of things now. But one of the responses that we've done in order to help us stay afloat has really been to turn inward and to focus on our organizational culture, making sure that we are living by the values that we want to see embodied in the rest of the world and society, that we are treating each other with decency and dignity, and trying to reflect reproductive justice in how we are with each other, so that will be a natural output to our patients, to our community members, to our partners, and to our movement. So that's a lot of what I've really tried to focus our energy on. We just did a bunch of strategic planning, but we are trying to be as unapologetic in our pursuit of liberation as possible. It's part of why we were founded as Feminist Women's Health Center, rebranded as Feminist Center for Reproductive Liberation, so that we can make sure that people knew exactly where we're headed in the next 50 years.
Love the name change. We talked about it last year, and you came on the pod to talk about it, and it's so good. Tracii, I'd love to ask you, you are the head of security, which is quite a crucial role at a clinic. And we never get to learn about so many important roles like head of security. Can you explain what you do at the clinic?
Well, basically, I try to manage the flow of events, the things that happen at the clinic on a daily basis, especially on the days when we are performing abortions. We do have a crowd of anti-abortion protesters that come out faithfully. And so just trying to mitigate the impact of what they say, how it affects the patients, is the biggest role that we have. Trying to be very mindful and cognizant when the patients pull up, identify yourself. They see that we're security, get them up and out of their cars as quickly as possible into the community room, which is the beginning of the safe space, which Feminist is. Give them some instructions, directions, let them know that they can kind of breathe now, they can woosah, because they're safe and we're going to take care of them. That's the main thing, I guess, the essence of what I do, just trying to manage, like I said, that part of it and mitigate interaction or the interaction between the protesters and the guests, so that they're not left with a negative taste in their mouth about Feminists, because that's not who we are. Once you are in the building, that's who Feminist is. That's the energy you feel. That's the love that the patients get from us, so that they leave and they always feel, thank you all for everything. Everybody has been so nice and so gracious. That's the energy that we want.
I love that you said Feminist is who we are when you get in the building. We have talked to so many clinics who, since the fall of Roe and since the pardoning of so many of those monsters who have gotten out, the uptick in the emboldenedness of these protesters outside of the clinic has gotten really intense. And so how has what you do to get people in safely and to make sure that experience at Feminist starts there, have you seen an uptick yourself, and how do you mitigate just that explosion of almost permission from these people to be the worst and come out more in droves?
Freedom of speech. People can say what they say. However, again, the way that I've trained my staff, the guards that work under me, is to understand the impact of what that has. We don't ever want the guests to interact with the protesters. So again, we try to be a shield on the days that we have volunteers. The volunteers have been awesome. They're the ones that escort the patients from their vehicles. And sometimes, that the guests might want to respond to something the protesters say. You let them get that one out and then get them in the building. It's always a surprise for them when they pull up, because we tell them that there are protesters there, to see them and to see that it's a majority of men. Mm-hmm. There may be a few women in there. It blows their minds. As far as the uptick, we're just coming off of the 40 Days of Life campaign, where they wanted people to be at the clinic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week around the clock, which was not successful.
You can't get people to do their favorite thing for that amount of time.
And who's coming out at night, in the middle of the night, in the dark,
When no one's there
when
anyway.
no one's there anyway?
You can't even harass anyone.
You're going to yell at the building. Right.
Yeah, creepy men spend that time online harassing people.
So, whenever there's a new face, the guards know, get a picture, get a video. I need to know who's at the bottom of the hill so I can get in contact with the people that I speak with to see if they've got any background information on these folks. Just always trying to stay a step ahead or be prepared for the what ifs is the biggest part of what I do. Because you don't know how people will respond, especially now that we don't have the FACE Act to protect us in the way that it did previously. You got to be ready. You got to be ready.
And people don't know that the people who are protesting in front of clinics travel. They have all kind of other cases. They're terrible people. And I love that you are, let's spot them and just place them. Let's put our web together of where they fit in this, because you have to.
And clone you, Tracii, because to have you be the first person somebody sees after that gauntlet, having you and how it shows your humanity, I think is so key to all of this. And that's why I love the film so much.
Kwajelyn, just another question before we move on. Providing abortion care in Georgia, you face enormous challenges, right? Like, it's still legal in Georgia, just everyone know that, but it's only legal up to 6 weeks of pregnancy. And we've seen over and over again that ban has been devastating for abortion seekers and really just anyone seeking, evidence-based pregnancy care. Can you talk about the real life harm that comes with providing care under such cruel laws?
It's incredibly frustrating for all of us, not only because of the potential consequences of anything that could be perceived as a violation of the law, but also the hurt that we experience when we have to turn people away, when we have to break people's hearts, when we are not permitted to be able to provide the care that we know how to do. Like, that has been incredibly frustrating. I'll say, though, our work alongside other reproductive health rights and justice organizations in Georgia has prevented things from worsening. We have seen terrible legislation be introduced at our state legislature, attempts to classify abortion as homicide and bring on potential criminalization for pregnant people, and those have failed. And so we're continuing to hold the line and to move towards what expansive healthcare could look like. So we're always trying to push politically for more care, for more access, for more support for pregnant people across Georgia and across the Southeast. So we're not going to be deterred, even though the circumstances are very frustrating and difficult for us to endure. Our patients need us, like Tracii has just described. Our communities need us. And so it's our job to remain undaunted and steadfast and keep doing what we know how to do the best we can.
We always have to remember it took them 50 years to reverse Roe, so they're relentless, and we know how to be relentless as well. So thank you both for just talking about how challenging your work is. And now we're going to get to the film, because the film is incredible. The documentary is incredible. But being the subject of a documentary is pretty intrusive. You're doing the work you're doing. You have the protesters. How did you navigate all the cameras when the work you do and the care you provide is actually kind of private and kind of personal?
It's been a very interesting dynamic with media over the course of time, especially when these big, landmark moments happen, like the 6-week ban being passed, or the Dobbs decision coming down, or unfortunately, when there are, casualties of these draconian laws that affect regular families in Georgia. We often get calls from media who want to come in. They want to talk to doctors. They want to talk to patients. They want to film the building. They want to be a fly on the wall. And we've been very careful to say, these are the circumstances under which we will allow our stories to be told. I'll let Tracii share what it was like for them to sort of follow us on a clinic day, but we had lots of conversation with the production crew ahead of time to talk about how we would create safety and security for our patients, how we would not disrupt their ability to get the care they need, how we would protect their anonymity, how we would protect our staff who do or don't want to be on camera, how we would tell the story, again, with dignity and honor and respect, and not exploiting the circumstances of the people who were coming to us. So that was incredibly important, and really grateful that they were in agreement with us at every step and moved at our pace.
And not knowing how the film would turn out until the first time that we saw it, it was my hope that everything that we wanted to show about how the ban affected people, how feminists were still able to conduct the work that we do, how we were still able to navigate in spite of, that was the biggest thing. Because at the end of the day, if someone saw the film and it was the thing that sparked the conversation, just like we're having, just talk about it. You don't have to like it. Just talk about it.
Actually, Tracii, because the film was so centrally about you and the work that you do, what did it take for you to get to yes, to letting the cameras be so intent on your role in the clinic operations?
Well, I just told them, please just don't get in my way. Let me do what I do every day. That's who I am at work. That wasn't the show for the cameras. That wasn't anything extra. That's just me every day. And just to be able to walk in my truth, what I do, who I am, I think they captured that very well.
I think they did too.
I completely agree. I just want to co-sign that this was not Tracii putting on a performance. This was not Tracii coming up with a persona. This was her heart reflected, and what you saw is what we experienced working alongside her.
It felt so genuine. It felt so authentic. And if that was an act, Tracii, you deserve an Academy Award.
I mean, I feel that so much because Tracii, what I really loved was people who can bring their whole selves to the work. We all have our rituals, right? We all have our ways of doing. And I felt like I was just a fly on the wall watching how and where you pull your strength from and what you do. And a big part of when you watch the film, one of the things that I feel really thrilled about that they captured was that you reclaimed Christianity. And because when we see religion inserted into this conversation, it is almost entirely these morally bankrupt, anti-abortion, screaming people, right? And I don't know if matter of fact is the right word, but it's organic to you, so it is matter of fact. For you to matter-of-factly just be inserting how your faith is your strength, your power, and your permission to do this work, to me was one of the most important things about this film. And I just love for you to talk about the vulnerability around doing that and saying that, and knowing that you would get blowback from those big, loud, bloviating monsters that you're a fake Christian and all this other shit. So sorry about the long-winded thing, but I just really appreciated it so much. And I'd love to hear your take on it.
Well, again, just being me and being able to walk in my truth, they were going to get it all. The prayers, my mouth sometimes was a little off-putting, but that's who I am. And the thing that gives me strength to continue to walk and serve feminists and the guests that come the way that I do is my faith. When I see how the things that the protesters say sometimes strike the women in their spirit, I have to let them know you are already forgiven. You know what I'm saying? They do not get the final say of who you are and what your life is going to be after you leave Feminist. If nothing else, again, that's the biggest thing I want them to walk away with, And if nobody told you today, I love you, and ain't nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Is it difficult sometimes to hear, especially after the film came out and they saw the film, and the things that they said to me. And it was a little triggering. But I have to remember, the God I serve, he don't make no mistakes. He's a forgiving God. So while you out here casting judgment on me, Christian, remember, you still sinning every day. Do you repent every day? Do you ask God for his forgiveness every day? What I do with a clean heart, a clear mind. I want everybody to be okay. Whatever that looks like for them, even for the protesters. People don't think that what we do in this arena, that you're not supposed to have any faith. You're not supposed to believe in God. You're not supposed to believe in anything greater than yourself because you work for the devil.
No, you don't pay me.
Ridiculous opinion.
I would say finding peace and prayer for those people must be one of the biggest challenges to your faith.
Well, that's the biggest thing. Even when we talk about forgiveness, It's not for them, it's for
Right.
me. If I respond to the negativity, I'm just as bad as they are. So, you pray for people that even take religion or God's name, again, to use it to try to pierce people in their spirit or try to make people feel like less than who they are. He didn't make no mistakes in creating any of us, right? Things happen. This is your reset. When you leave here, you got another day to do it better.
I just want to say, I hope you pray for me because I make fun of them all the time.
Tracii, I just wanted to say to you, I watched the documentary with one of my good friends who is Southern and Christian in a way that I'm not. And she was in tears, just in the words that you said. And it really sort of, I feel like she said, this just feels like a balm. She's like, I feel like I want to take this home and like share this documentary with everyone in my community who is a little either more ambivalent or more anti-abortion. And so I just wanted to say that on her behalf, that it was also a touching moment of me and my friend watching you in this documentary. In this film, you also touch on the conflict you have between your faith and your abortion.
Right.
How do you navigate that? How do you find grace for yourself in that?
I will tell you that once I saw this film, that was my freedom. That was my peace. That was my, okay, it's out there for the world to see now. You can let it go. Because for years, I held on to it because who could I talk to? Who would understand? And then, like I said, when I lost my twins, it was like, okay, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And whatever you'll have me to do, I'm going to do it. If nothing else, that's my legacy. You can talk about it. You don't have to like that I had one. You don't have to agree about why. That's my truth. And like it or leave me alone. Because, it is what it is. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody loves somebody that's had an abortion. You just don't know about it.
That's right. We can't say it enough. I think that this film is like one more opportunity to reflect how reproductive justice is compassionate, is caring, can be sacred, and that our duty is not to judge or condemn or humiliate. It is to support, is to care, is to provide. That's what Tracii does every day. That's what we try very hard to do at Feminist. It's what independent clinics all over the country are trying to do, is show up for people and meet their needs.
And give them grace, because a lot of people don't get that.
It's true. And I have to say, Kwajelyn, I know this is going to freak you out, but we've known each other 10 years. Every time I see you, you bring that. And that means you're not just bringing that to me. That means that you are showing up like that all the time for everyone. And I know that to be true. And I feel like the gift for you, Tracii, when I hear you say that, you get to every day show up for people on whatever their spectrum is of conflict they're having around this decision. You get to show up for them and be somebody that validates what they're doing. And that's pretty amazing. So just in thinking about, you did the film, it came out in a way that you're both happy with, right? But what I wanted to ask was, and we weren't going to ask this, but now I want to ask this just because hearing this, did they go into this film thinking that they were going to follow you, Tracii? Or did they go into this film with another plan? And then after they met all of you and saw, did it emerge that Tracii is the human that we feel like is the narrative we want to bring? How did it work? How did it go?
I mean, it pretty much exactly what you said. I think they interviewed many, many people. They were with us for several days. They had both like on the move film and then also sort of like seated talking head, answering questions. They had lots and lots of footage to pull from. And I think the narrative around Tracii's role in the clinic, her story, and the impact she has rose to the top. And I think the film shines because of that. Lots of us have been, and I mean, I know that AF has also done documentary films. A lot of us have been a part of media around reproductive health rights and justice. But I do think that this particular angle of looking at the way that provision works, not just from the perspective of the doctor, but from the many people who are a part of making care happen and keeping people safe, I think was a new perspective. And I think that faith and heart and compassion were a part of what made this story so special. And what brought it to the attention of the Academy voters.
100%.
I loved it so much. And I want to thank you both for coming and joining us in this conversation. The Devil is Busy. I don't know if we've said the name in this conversation is the name of the documentary, and you can see it on HBO. Kwajelyn or Tracii, can you tell our people where to find you and how they can support the Feminist Center?
Online, we are at feministcenter.org. On Instagram, we are also at Feminist Center. Those are probably the best places to find us. As we stated at the top, we're celebrating 50 years of CARE this year and trying really hard to make sure that people understand what's still available in Georgia and what's to come in the next 50 years.
Amazing.
Thank you both so much for joining us.
This was really great. And it's just so great to hear that not only were you happy with the documentary, that it gave you a new perspective on how you're going to move forward, which is the best news I've had all day. Yay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Bye.
Such an incredible conversation. Please remember to support Feminist Center's 50th anniversary campaign by making a gift. You can make that gift at feministcenter.org/donate. The link will be in the show notes. Also, sign up for their April 15th volunteer training. That's just a few days away. You can go to their website, feministcenter.org, to get more information. And of course, it's only 30 minutes and it's 30 minutes well spent. Watch The Devil is Busy on HBO. It is so incredible and touching, and you will love it.
You will. And as always, you can learn all about these things, find all of these links and all of the stories in our show notes. And you can find the best, most up-to-the-minute resources on accessing abortion care and funding for your care on our website, aafront.org. Our Charlie chatbot on the bottom right will walk anyone anywhere in the country through their options and resources for abortion.
We do this show because this info is not given enough attention, not in the media, not anywhere. So please help us spread the word and show us some love by liking, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating. Every single bit helps us reach more listeners.
That's right. And now let's exhale. Let's exhale with a little party game. You know it, you love it. It's the party game that's faster than Monopoly, more fun than Taboo. It's 6 Degrees of Abortion. This is where Moji takes a story from the news, and I have 6 chances to link it to abortion. Moji, will you stump me this week?
I absolutely won't stump you this week, but I'm really excited, and I'm going to just give you a hint before I get there.
Oh.
Arsenio Hall, esteemed talk show host, wrote a memoir, and it's in the news, and he was incredible. When I was a teenager, young adult for like 5 years, it was the late night talk show to watch. He was one of the first Black men to host a talk show, and every freaking body was there. And actually, I just want to big up his books, but you, Liz, walk us through 6 series of how we get to Arsenio Hall.
So I did love, I have to say, Coming to America. That's one of my most favorite movies with Louis Anderson. So good. So Arsenio Hall to
I'm
abortion.
sorry, you said Louis Anderson, not, I'm sorry, not Eddie Murphy. Not Eddie
No,
Murphy.
Louis Anderson was amazing.
No, I know he was in it, but I'm just like, that is not the name we usually go. It's like, oh yeah, Coming to America. That famous Louis.
Look, Moji, where am I from?
With Minnesota.
Where's Louis Anderson from?
Is he from Minnesota as well?
Yes, that's why I shouted him out, because I'm always going to give props to a Minnesotan when I can. Okay, Arsenio Hall. So how I'm going to tie him to abortion, and then I'm going to give a little drag. So Arsenio Hall, one of the biggest touchstone moments in Arsenio Hall talk show history was when Bill Clinton was running for president, and he went on Arsenio Hall and he played the saxophone.
Yes.
And that was during the same time period that Bill Clinton announced abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, stigmatizing abortion for all to hear. So I'm going to go with Arsenio Hall to Bill Clinton to safe, legal, and rare.
Decent drag, but that's not an Arsenio Hall drag. That's a Clinton drag. And
That is a Clinton drag. Exactly correct. Safe, legal, and whenever you need one. That is my theory.
Fuck yeah.
Yes.
So come on, you had some history, because I mean, it's a talk show. And you know who knows talk shows? Liz Winstead knows talk shows.
I'm gonna bask in my glory, and then
I think you should. And I got to do the woo, woo, woo on tape, which I'd never done before. So that's exciting.
sadly people can't see your fist going when you're
I
doing
did it though, but I did
Okay.
it. And I'm glad that you noted that I did it.
Yeah.
Our next guest is a feminist author and activist who's written a series of books titled Rad Women Worldwide that illuminate and celebrate women's herstory. Her new book, Where the Girls Were, is an historical novel set in 1968 about a pregnant teen who is sent to a maternity home. Please welcome Kate Schatz. Hello, Kate. Welcome.
Hey, Kate.
Hi, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
We're so glad to have you. So you are most known for your extensive nonfiction writing, which not only celebrates amazing feminist women, but you've also co-authored To the Work, an anti-racist activity book that you co-wrote with an amazing man feminist, W. Kamau Bell.
He's a good man feminist.
I'm going to text him and tell him that he's been referred to as
Yes.
a man feminist. He's
Yes,
going to like
please.
that.
How did social justice issues and rad women factor into your life growing up and influence you to start writing about them?
Oh, that's such a good question. And it's actually a perfect question because I am recording this podcast in my childhood bedroom. Because I'm actually at my parents' house. I'm taking my mom out to lunch for her birthday. And so I am talking to you from the room where it happened. I became a feminist buzzkill right here in this very room. This is where I listened to to Bikini Kill, and where I listened to Ani DeFranco, and where I stayed up late, reading feminist texts and getting really angry. And so it's kind of always been my thing. And I think when I started with the Rad Women book series, it came out of a fascination that I'd always had with feminist histories and the women nobody teaches us about or tells us about or talks about. And I wanted to create a book that my daughter, so I got the idea for that book when my daughter was 2. And I was thinking about what I wanted her to learn about once she got a little older. And that's where that book came from. But the seeds for that were planted fully here in this childhood space where I was a reader and a thinker and a question asker and, a budding young social justice activist.
I just fully related to a story I read of you as a teen or preteen reading Our Body Ourselves. Same, girl, same.
Right. I mean, this is in this room. That's where I would read it. You know what I also used to do in here? I'm having like serious childhood flashbacks. I, as a little kid, was obsessed with Reading Rainbow, and I would pretend to be one of those kids on Reading Rainbow who was recording like the book reports. There'd be kids who would like tell you about the books, and I would sit in here with my tape recorder and talk to myself and pretend I was a book reviewer.
Oh, that's so cute. So here's my question. Let's say we were all reading our bodies ourselves, right?
Right.
Some of us had mothers that wanted us to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us, like me, had mothers who we had to smuggle it in, hiding it in the Catholic bulletin, as I might have or might not have. So was feminism an encouraged part of you, or was it something that you found and brought into the world by yourself?
I'd say it was kind of both. I snuck my mom's copy of Our Bodies Ourselves off the shelf and brought it into my room in secret. But I don't think my mom would have minded if she knew. There was something about it that felt secret to me, but she wasn't trying to hide it. And it was the same with, I think I grew up in a family that was led by really strong, outspoken women. But my kind of feminism that I came into and I embraced was definitely a lot louder and a lot more like, and angry. And like, I called myself a feminist. And I don't think that my mom or my grandma necessarily used the F word, right? So they weren't upset and they weren't trying to stop me, but they were like, whoa, she's a lot. I definitely was supported in my extreme righteousness.
So before we get to the book, this current book, both Moji and I are fascinated by Writing Wednesdays. Can you talk about what this is and like, can we be part of it?
Yeah. Writing Wednesdays is it's an hour-long Zoom that I host every Wednesday morning, with the exception of some Wednesdays when I'm traveling. And it's at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and it's an hour, and it's open to anyone. If you subscribe to my Substack, then it's free. If not, I'm like Venmo me a couple bucks for the month. And we start off at 9 a.m. and I give everybody a writing prompt. So I usually talk for the first like 5 minutes and do kind of a craft talk and give a prompt. And then people write quietly for the next 50 minutes. I come back at the end and kind of wrap up, but it's a space for people to just write. You can work on anything you're working on. And it's really about creating community for writers and also accountability, showing up every week for this 1 hour. I've got people who are published authors working on their next books, and I've got people who are literally just writing in their journals and don't aspire to even publish. So it's a great space, and folks can find the Zoom link on my website and in my Instagram bio.
And we'll put it in the show notes too.
So now let's get to your current book, because that's why we're here. It's called Where the Girls Were, and it's the story of a young woman named Baker and her journey as a pregnant teen who's then sent to a maternity home. The title is an homage to the Ann Fessler oral history of maternity homes called The Girls Who Went Away, which I love.
Moji and I are obsessed with the girls. We're obsessed.
Yeah.
If you will just walk through what a maternity home is for our listeners.
Ooh. Yeah. So the novel's set in 1968, again, Where the Girls Were, and it's about a teenager in San Francisco who gets pregnant and is sent away to a maternity home, or a home for unwed mothers, or a home as it was often referred to. And the book is inspired by my mom's experiences. It's fiction, but it's based on what my mom experienced in the 60s with unplanned pregnancies and adoption and getting sent away in the time before she had knowledge of and access to safe legal abortion. And basically the statistic is that in the years between the end of World War II, so about 1945 to 1973, when Roe was decided, approximately 1.5 million American women, mostly young women, were in maternity homes and surrendered children for adoption. So it's a pretty big statistic. And these homes existed in all over the country, mostly in big to medium-sized cities. And they were places where pregnant young women were sent to be kind of write out their pregnancy in secret. It was to get them out of the public eye, to hide them from their communities. And for the most part, overwhelmingly during that time period, they were giving up, coerced, convinced, forced to surrender those babies for adoption.
And it feels like historically, and your book reflects on this too a little bit, it just feels there is so much coercion, and there's so much, a lot of times young girls and young women don't even understand what pregnancy is, what happens to them. And also it's hammered into them that you'll just get over it.
Yeah.
Which is astounding. Astounding.
Absolutely. And that was my mom's experience. Again, my mom had 2 unplanned pregnancies back to back in 1966 and 67. And she was told by everyone, by the people in the homes and by her parents, just move on, forget about it. They've gone to good families, right, who can actually give them a good life. And now you're just going to move on. She never talked about it to anyone again. I didn't find out about this until I was in my 20s, when she finally kind of broke down and told me this secret she'd been holding. And she never forgot about it. Of course, one of the most, when she finally told me, and she's told me over the years, for years, one of her passcodes for her devices is the birthday of the first baby that she had.
Wow.
And my mom's turning 79 today. That's the degree to which she never forgot, right? But that really was the messaging to these young women, that you will just forget about it and move on, and it never happened.
I had an abortion and a baby, and I forget about my abortion all the time. I never forget about my pregnancy. That is an impossible task to give a young woman. I love personally when we get older, we all here have some decades on us, and your parents are like, oh, no, I'm a person too. I've had experiences and mistakes, and I was once a young person and things happened to me. When you were writing this book, did a character emerge that felt like your interpretation of your mother or your mother's experience? And if so, who and why?
I think there's little bits of my mom's experience in a lot of the characters. So the protagonist of the book, I really intentionally didn't want to model her after my mom. I wanted to create a really independent, actually fictionalized version. But there are parts of my mom's story that are in the protagonist. In particular, my mom's just lack of access to knowledge and information about her body. Again, when I was growing up, she had that copy of Our Bodies Ourselves, but she didn't have that in 1966. She didn't have it in 67, right? It wasn't published until I think 72. So that was part of my character. But there's little bits of her in a number of the young women. In the book, it's set again mostly in this home, so there's kind of a cast of characters of these pregnant teens, and I'd say that there's little bits of my mom and other family members in all of them.
The history of these maternity homes is really fascinating because there's a broad swath of sort of what they provided, right? There was like super, super, super religious ones. And then there were some that were like no more than like rooming houses.
Yes.
And all of them tragic on some level. And I think what I really loved, and I want to hear your intention around this, is the pregnancy around Baker and the pregnancy around all of these people and this maternity home, I should say, felt less religious stigmatizing and way more patriarchal and society stigmatizing, you know, with Baker's mother really being like, how's this going to reflect on me? And what does this mean for how I move forward, how you move forward? Nothing was about any choice Baker made. And so I wondered if that was intentional to sort of leave the religiosity out of it and really center more on how little choice and what that can look like outside of just religion being the oppressor in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. That was totally intentional. And you're right that the way these homes functioned, operated, and felt very dramatically, and they were so regional and cultural, right? I mean, there were ones that were racially segregated in the South, right? There were many that were run by nuns and were deeply religious. And then there were ones that were totally secular and that were in big cities and also could be described as maybe even quote unquote more progressive, right? And for me, studying the book in 1968 in the Bay Area at a time when most people think, oh, it was progressive, it was radical, it was the summer of love, it's the hippies. I wanted to show the degree to which the patriarchy was still deeply entrenched, and that these women, despite maybe being part of the counterculture and kind of seeking this kind of cultural revolution, were also still completely constrained by the law and by social norms, again, outside of the religious context. I think also for me, that's what I grew up with. I did not grow up in religious community. I grew up in the Bay Area. And so that was never a part of kind of what my family and my mom experienced. And it wasn't part of my culture growing up. But I wanted to show this particular version of it because I think these stories are often rooted in the religious shame, but it fully happened outside of that as well.
I was so living for that.
But similarly for me, it was interesting how there were men in the book, right? No man was bad. It was sort of like individual men, they were mostly benign and kind of faceless. It was, but the weight of the patriarchy and the fact that there were still no consequences for these men, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was really interested in that. I wanted to kind of try to write something that explored the kind of nuance of reproductive justice and of what it is to be pregnant and make a choice. And I didn't want there to be a bunch of evil villains. I didn't want the men to be awful. I didn't want the home to be terrible and abusive. Those things absolutely exist and existed, but I wanted to show a world that actually could feel almost normal, but is still so deeply entrenched in these systems of control and dominance and lack of agency for these young women.
Well, the thing that I really loved, you know, it's always hard to talk about someone's book because you want people to read it. You know, so it's like I don't want to give everything away. And I listened to it driving from Minnesota to Brooklyn. It was great.
The audiobook is so good.
The audiobook is so good.
It's not me reading it. So people listening know that if you don't like my voice, no worries. It is not me.
It is so good. But what the thing that I really loved was it presented something that I think listeners and readers are going to have a lot of awakening around, which is choice doesn't just mean abortion. And so all of these other issues of choice, whether it's how you want to be pregnant, do you get to choose to see a doctor? Are you forced to do all of these things? When your pregnancy does not end in abortion, these women still didn't have any choices in what that meant. And I think that's really important. And I wondered if you wrote it as kind of a cautionary tale of where we are now.
Yeah. And thank you for pointing that out. I mean, it was important to me to show exactly what you said, that choice is not just about abortion. It is one of the many choices that I want to always be on the menu for anyone experiencing pregnancy, but it is not all that it's about. There's so many different choices that have to be made and so many options that are denied. I've been working on this book for a long time, and I was working on it well before the Dobbs decision in 2022. obviously, when that came down, it was one of the major motivating factors for me to finish the manuscript and to get it out into the world. I was working on a number of other books, but when that happened, it was like, okay, it's go time for this one. And absolutely, I want it to be. I mean, I think of all the histories I write about are to some degree cautionary tales and reminders of what our past has looked like, how it impacts the moment we're living in, and hopefully giving some ideas and perspectives for the future that we all deserve.
I just want to reiterate, I really enjoyed the book. And it's interesting because I feel like there were choices you made to not create an actual villain that, again, I thought was just interesting because I feel like a lot of the books I read for this work, there are villains. They're very obvious. Who do you think needs to hear this story and why?
So I've often thought of this book as a kind of generational bridge. I want women, my mom's generation, right? I want them to feel seen by this book. And I've had a lot of really intense, powerful, moving conversations with readers and people at my events, and women who, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who have confided in me and who have told me what it means to them to see this experience reflected in a book. And I also want it to reach younger readers, like, my generation and my daughter's generation, right, who don't know this history and don't have a sense of what life was like before Roe and don't necessarily understand what their mothers and grandmothers went through and what's at stake for them. So that kind of eye-opening of younger generations being like, oh my God, I never knew about this. And then the older generation being like, yeah, we actually all know about this, but we're not supposed to talk about it. That's the kind of way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. And I also think, too, it's important to let people know that since Dobbs happened, there's been a resurgence of these maternity homes in profound ways, and the brutality around them and the indentured servitude around them. And we'll put links to some articles about some of the ones that are opening in Georgia and Texas that are literally run by Christian nationalists, and how that all plays out. So what's old is new again, and the new version is some bullshit.
Yeah, and because the new version also includes forms of criminalization that we weren't seeing back then, right? My mom faced social stigma and shame, right? And a lot of emotional trauma from her experience, but she wasn't getting charged with murder or attempted murder. That iteration of this too, in conjunction with these homes, and also the treatment of pregnant young women in detention centers as well in Texas and other states along the border. It's just, yeah, we're in a new place, and there's echoes of the past, but also new levels of cruelty.
Fresh new harms.
So the book, Where the Girls Were, incredible. Kate, tell people where they can find the book and where they can find you.
Well, I hope that they can find it in their local independent bookstore and in their local public library. It can also be found on the internet wherever you buy books, which is hopefully from a place that supports local independent booksellers and not a giant corporate monster.
IndieBound,
etc. So in your bookstore, in your library, and you can find me on my website and my Instagram and my Substack and all those places. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet.
And Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m.
Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Come join me. It's not weird. You just show up in a Zoom and it's me. And I'm like, here's what we're writing about today. It's great.
Kate, thank you so much for just constantly having an entire career that has celebrated people who need to be uplifted. You are in the giving flowers business to righteous people. And I want to thank you for that. And thank you for being here. Read the book. It is fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all of your incredible work.
Get this book, Where the Girls Were. It's awesome. You can get it at Kate's official website, kateschatz.com. You can find her on Instagram at K8Schatz, and her Substack is Kate Schatz. So shoot your Schatz. We'll put all the links in the show notes.
Liz, that's our show. I love Shoot Your Schatz. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the pod. Thanks again to Tracii and Kwajelyn. And don't forget to donate to the Feminist Center for their 50th anniversary celebration.
That's right. Now, I know the answer to this. Did we make you smarter?
Yes.
Did we make you laugh?
Yes.
So if we did, please, please, please show us some love. Again, we're going to beg. Like, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. And if you really want to go extra and you really are getting something out of this podcast, please join our Patreon. Again, you get merch, you get content, you get birthday shout outs, you get experiences, and you get to support this pod and AA Front, all of our work. Folks, do it. Patreon.com/feministbuzzkills. Pledge $5, $50, $1. I don't think you can pledge $1, but anything helps.
Plus, Abortion Access Front brings the news and the info every single day. And so you can stay connected with us on social media. You just go to @AbortionFront across all platforms, including Blue Sky. And with your help, we can get more people to learn about this assault on abortion access that is ongoing.
I love that you gave Blue Sky an extra shout out.
I just feel like people forget about Blue Sky. You
We're
know what? I
even on
remember
Blue Sky.
Instagram. We're even there. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, it was so funny. Just sidebar really quick. I was watching, you know, that horrible senator, his name is John Kennedy. He's from Louisiana.
Yes.
Okay. He was confronting somebody about their Blue Sky post and it kept calling it Blueski. I read your Blueski post. I was like, what? You're nuts. Anyway, yeah. Okay, whatever. Now you're activated. Let's get you informed. We're going to get through this, y'all. Check out our awesome Operation Save Abortion trainings at operationsaveabortion.com. You can get an abortion activist glow up and learn all about the areas abortion providers and patients need your help with.
And while you're there, poke around a little bit. We got a super cool activist calendar that is chock full of local, national actions, and lots and lots and lots of educational opportunities. So you can just dive right in. Again, all of that is at operationsaveabortion.com.
And even more ways to get involved. Sign up to volunteer with AAF. We need you. Go to our website, aafront.org. Fill out the volunteer form, and we'll figure it out together.
Join us next week as we welcome the medical director of our favorite hotline, the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline, Dr. April Lockley. She'll be helping us remind you that no matter what state you're in, you can still access safe and supported options for abortion care.
Plus, comedian and political pop princess Krista Sparkles is here to bring us hot divorcee summer vibes and her catchy, funny songs about white people, ICE, and folks who say they're not political. She's got a lot to say, and she is hilarious.
I cannot wait to talk to her. The Feminist Buzzkills podcast is edited and produced by Remy de Tournay and Jin Moon for Abortion Access Front.
Moji and Lizz out.
Ciao!
Feminist Buzzkills, the podcast from Abortion Access Front. New episodes drop Friday. When BS is poppin', we pop off. And if you want to support our podcast and all the work of Abortion Access Front, like, subscribe, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.